Mr. Vittal, Mr. D.V. Kapoor, distinguished members of the jury, Mr. Saran, ladies and gentlemen, and of course all the award winners today. It's really a great pleasure and honor to be here at the EMPI Indian Express Innovation Award. I think this award is a great idea to respect organizational innovation and innovative organizations, and I can say that I know many of the organizations who have won the award and they really deserve this. It's a very special thing and they're all doing a great job. I came here at the request of Mr. Vittal, who himself is one of the most innovative bureaucrats that I've met. He's like a mentor to me and to the entire software industry, because 20 years back, it was his out-of-the-box thinking which led to the reforms for the software industry, which led to the great explosion that happened in the last 20 years. So he's like a mentor to me, and he also recently helped the UIDAI by chairing a committee on the data standards and verification, where again he came out with some very innovative ways to make sure that numbers are given on an inclusive basis to the people of India. I thought I'll spend a few minutes just trying to tell you what we do, because everybody asks me questions about what is this UIDAI and all that. And the most common question I get asked is, when is the card coming? And I say there's no card. And so it starts from there. So, and I think this is an important point, and I guess in some sense it's part of the business model which we have chosen, which we hope is innovative. We felt that the real value proposition that we have to offer is that to give a unique number to everybody, because that's really the hard part. How do we make sure that everybody has a different number? How do we make sure that the same number is not given to two people? And how do we make sure that a person has only one number? That's really the challenge. And therefore we said, if we can give the number uniquely to everybody, then whether that number is manifested in a card, a phone, a passport, it doesn't really matter, because those are all instantations, or they're all physical manifestations. But what is important is the software of having the unique number, and that's really the logic where we came from. And for that, we're doing a whole host of technology. We're using biometrics. We're using all the 10 fingerprints, both the iris and the picture. We're doing what's called as deduplication to make sure that a person does not get a number twice, and so on and so forth. But what it does is, when you start issuing numbers and not cards, you then go from a point where you can then provide a partnership model to other organizations. Because we are not in the card business. We're not trying to create our own product. What we're really doing is giving a unique number, and then we're going to the department which issues passports and says, use this unique number to make sure there are no duplicate passports. Or we go to the department that issues PAN cards and say, use this unique number to make sure there are no duplicate PAN cards. We do the same with NREGA job cards. We do the same with ration cards, and so on and so forth. So in some sense, we have gone from being one more card issuer to somebody who really sits at the back of all the cards being issued and provides this function of uniqueness and deduplication. We think that's an innovative business model, because we don't really do all the front-end stuff. So the front-end things are done by agencies which actually touch the customer, who actually deal with the citizens, who provide services, whether it's NREGA jobs, or whether it's school education, or whether it's passports or PAN cards or whatever. Now, the reason why this is important is the scale of the problem that we have. The scale of the problem requires us in the next several years to give a unique number to 1.1 or 1.2 billion people. In other words, every man, woman, and child has to land up in the next few years at some location, give their biometrics, give their iris prints, have a picture taken, provide the necessary documentation to prove who they are, and then they get the number. And that's a massive logistical challenge to cover 1.2 billion people, and clearly it's not possible to be done just by us. Nor does it make sense to create another massive organization just to do this, which is why we came out with this model where we just provide the authentication, the deduplication, and all those things, and we use all these partners who are dealing with individuals in this country to get them into our system. And so we have many, many registrars. We have signed up with more than 20 states and union territories. We have signed up with LIC. We have signed up with banks like the SBI. We have a partnership with the Ministry of Rural Development for NREGA. We have a partnership with the Labor Ministry on the RSBY program. We have a partnership with the National Population Register, which is part of the census, ongoing census. So the idea is that once you create these multiple sort of partnerships, you're able to have multiple feed-in channels by which people will come in to get the numbers. And that's how, in this collaborative model, we're able to give numbers to everybody as soon as possible. So that's one fundamental, in some sense, innovation which we have, which is on the business model side. The other important innovation I think we are bringing in is the notion of authentication. Because it's not just about giving somebody a unique identity. It is also providing the infrastructure by which you can authenticate that the person is the person he claims to be in a very convenient manner. And for that, what we are saying is that there can be any number of authentication points. There can be millions of points which provide authentication for a particular purpose. For example, every fair price shop in the PDS system can be an authentication point to make sure that the person getting the fair price, the rice or wheat at the subsidized price is the genuine person. Or every business correspondent in a village can have an authentication point to make sure that that person is the person who actually has that bank account. Or every school can be an authentication point to make sure that the child is coming to school or teacher is coming to school. So fundamentally, we can have millions of authentication points. And an authentication point is simply a point where you confirm the identity of a person. So the way it would work is that somebody would come and say, I'm X, my number is 123, here is my fingerprint, and this information, number X, the name X, the number 123, and the fingerprint is sent online to our central database server, where we check whether that person is indeed X, and we reply within 5 to 6 seconds that either it's a yes or a no. In other words, it confirms the person is the person. And while this may sound like a trivial solution, identity verification is at the heart of everything that we do. So when you issue a ration card and want to give him rice, when you issue a bank account and want him to withdraw money, when you want to check anything, identity verification is the fundamental foundation, which is why the whole program, we call it as Aadhaar, which means foundation. Now, I think the innovation here is the concept of online authentication. Because once you have online authentication, then you have the instrument with which you can change the process in which you deliver public services. And therefore, we think that it's very useful because it provides a core infrastructure which can be then used to change public services. Now, what do I mean by changing public services? I'll give an example of how our PDS works. And I'm talking about the PDS because it's in the news now regarding food security and all that. The way the PDS works now is that in a particular state gets its quota of rice and wheat from some central FCI and all that. They in turn give it to the next level. And finally, at the end of this chain is a fair price shop which is allotted a certain number of people. So there are 200 people assigned to this fair price shop. There are 300 people assigned to this fair price shop. It's hard-coded. It's a mapping of person to the shop. So you can only go to one shop. And they will then say that, okay, you have 200 people, the ration is 25 kilos per head, so you get that much rice or wheat, and you're supposed to give it to the people. Now, as you know, the current system has a huge number of gaps. There were any number of reports on this from the Planning Commission, from the Wadhwa report, and so on, which show that there's a huge amount of leakage and diversion in the system, and the person who is the beneficiary has no idea whether actually the rice or wheat is coming, and he can only go to one shop. If that shop is going to act funny with him, he can't do anything about it. He's not going to get any rice or wheat. So our view is that if we can bring, so where does Aadhaar fit in this model? It, I believe, provides two very fundamental benefits. First, it addresses the problem of duplicates, because by making sure that a person has only one Aadhaar number, we in turn can make sure that it comes only once in a ration card, and therefore we can eliminate duplicate ration cards, ghosts, all these problems that we have. And this is a serious problem. There are states where the ration cards issued is more than the population of the state. At the same time, there are a lot of poor people in the very same state that don't have ration cards. So we have this huge problem everywhere. So one part of what Aadhaar does is it does the deduplication and eliminates all the duplicates. But the other part which it does is by having online authentication, you can then say that when somebody goes to a fair price shop, you authenticate him and then only you give his rice or wheat. Now, what does this do? First of all, you can keep his rice or wheat open balance on the cloud or on the internet or whatever you want to call this network. When you keep the balance on the cloud, it then means you can go to any fair price shop to withdraw your rice or wheat. Now, this is very important because today, if some poor guy on the BPL list is going to go and get his ration, he can go to one shop. And if the shop doesn't treat him well, then he doesn't get the rice or wheat. Now, if you can make it a food account, which is on the net, And you can now go to any fair price shop to withdraw money. So suddenly you're giving him choice. The second thing is, you can say that a particular fair price shop can replenish its supplies only when it shows the list of people who have withdrawn supplies earlier. In other words, if 50 people go to a fair price shop and withdraw the rice or wheat, since you will have the record of that, you can then say that we will send you another 1,000 kilos of rice only after you show me that so much has been withdrawn. So instead of being a supply side model, it becomes a demand-led model. You can actually make the people, the fair price shop will get its quota only when they show that they've sold it. And therefore you can create, again, a different model of accountability and transparency in the way you do things. And this is just an example of how you can re-engineer the process. And you can apply this kind of re-engineering of the process to any application that has identity, whether it is the PDS system, the NREGA system, it could be RSBY, it could be SSA in education, it could be Indira Awas Yojana for housing loans, housing grants for the poor. There are ICDS for immunization of babies. So we have a whole host of social programs in this country where we are spending vast amount of money to deliver public services. And using identity verification, we are able to basically bring about change in that. And I think the innovation here is that innovation is also, I think, about what not to do. And basically, we have limited our role. We have circumscribed our role to the task of identity verification. Our database is very simple. Apart from the biometrics, it has the name, the address, the date of birth, the sex, and the father's or mother's name. That's it. We don't keep any other information in our database because I think any other information is relevant to the application. If the PDS people want to have a database where they keep track of who's eligible, that's part of their application. If the passport department wants to keep track of who's eligible to get a passport, it's their department. If the education department wants to keep track of attendance, it's part of their application. So basically, we provide a foundation or an infrastructure which allows other people to embed it in their business or in their activities and build applications on top. And that is where I think the role of government in innovation, I think, comes. In other words, our job is to create a platform. Our job is to, because nobody else can do that. I mean, no agency can go and give 1 billion people a number. It can only be done by government. But having given them the number, the trick is then to say we will restrict our activity to the numbering of people, and we will create an open innovation platform where different agencies, based upon their business requirements, based on their social requirements, based on the requirements for public delivery, can then embed this in the way they do things and build applications on top of that. In other words, we build the platform and innovation happens on the edge of this platform. And government does what it can do well, which is to have a scalable solution which can be national in nature, and then let both businesses and banks or anybody else build applications on the edge of this platform in which they embed what identity sort of logic that we give, and then build all kinds of new applications. And that's really how we think innovation will happen. We are very confident that in the next few years, once we actually start giving the identity to a lot of people, then ideas will come which we have not thought about. Somebody will come out with some great new idea which has not struck us, but they will build an innovation around this and deliver some kind of a service, some kind of a benefit in a way that we had not even visualized. And this is, we think, the way to build platforms in the government, which is to build a platform which is fundamental, which is scalable, which is interoperable, which is national, and then let everybody in the public and the private sector then operate innovation at the edge of this platform and create new value with new applications. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what we are trying to do and why we think it is, well, innovative. We are also doing a lot of other things on the organizational side. For example, one of the challenges we had was how do we get great talent to work on this project? Because as I said, the complexity of this is very, very high. So we have come out with a number of steps. For example, we have a sabbatical program where people can come and work for us for a couple of years from their company, taking leave and coming to work with us. We have an internship program for interns to come and work with us. We have a volunteer program where people can come and volunteer with us. We have set up many committees like Mr. Vittal's committee, which are advising us. So the idea is, since we don't have all the intellectual capital in-house, how do we create a model where we can basically get intellectual capital from around us, and that we have done all this in a very formal way with very proper approved processes. And the other innovation I think we're trying to do is what's called as crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing simply means how do you do rapid iterative design by consulting a lot of people. And so many of the areas we have developed, are sort of solutions like in financial inclusion and PDS. We have come out with a first cut hypothesis of how this thing should look, how should it work, and then we send it out to 50 people whom we know have knowledge and interest in that subject, and we get their feedback. And then we're able to use that feedback to keep on improving the solution till we come out with a final solution that we think will pass the test. So this kind of different techniques that we are bringing in, because we think that's the only way in the short period of time that we have to really go out and do the things that we have to do. And we have been now in operation for less than a year, and we are on schedule, and we had said we'll start issuing the Aadhaar numbers between August of this year and February of next year. So we're very much on target. In the next few months, we'll start issuing numbers. We're working through a lot of these partners, so we hope to start issuing numbers pretty rapidly. And then we hope to see applications emerging which will use these numbers, and then the people will start realizing the value of having an Aadhaar number. Thank you very much.